This podcast is recorded on Aboriginal land. We pay our respects to elders past and present and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded. Welcome back to the Radical Online Leftist Pipeline podcast. My name is Mitch Alexander.
Yo, this is Tanaki. Hey, hang on, no. I was trying to be really cool there, and you spoke over me. I was going, yo, this is Tanaki.
I'm so confused. I haven't been on for a week.
It had an urban edge to it, the way I introduced myself.
I'm
thinking about this for hours, Celeste.
I am so sorry, mate. I'm so sorry.
Stepped on Tanaki's pivot to what I'm assuming is a job application for FM radio.
Yo, this is Tanaki.
I never want to do that. He's a legend, but I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm Celeste Little. Obviously, I am off my game.
And I'm Tom Tanaki. Now that I've lost my urban edge altogether, as has the podcast, forget about the young audience now.
Well, speaking of forgetting the young audience, Pingers isn't with us this week. Jordan is out on assignment, keeping the bastards honest as far as it goes. So I'm here holding down the youth contingent of the pod, fellow kids.
Oh, why do you get to be the youth of tomorrow? We the fucking boomers. Oh, yeah, I don't know you guys, your age, Mitch. Are you heaps younger?
I'm 26.
Are you 26?
No, I'm fucking
You're not fucking 26. I'm looking at you going, I don't want to. Yeah, because you put me in a box where I'm going to go, you don't look 26. And then it's like.
Yeah, if you're 26, I'm 30.
But no, I used to work at Triple J, you see. So.
You got credo.
Yeah, I worked there for far too long.
I've rapped before. Doesn't that make me useful?
My name's Tom T, and I'm here to say.
No, I have. I've just recorded fucking things of me. I'm on a seminal Oz hip hop album. Do you know that? No, this is another conversation.
Yeah, there's another conversation. Don't get me
wrong. I don't see myself as an Oz hip hop fucking rapper. I'm not that, but I have done it before. Anyway, whatever. I'm trying to like youth clad myself. Or something.
No, we're getting those recordings very soon, but. Not to dwell on anything else for too long, because Celeste, you mentioned that today, the day we're recording, the 4th of February, is a sick as fuck anniversary.
Yeah, and I was reminded of it today when I switched on the socials. But today is the anniversary of the Cumragunja walk-off, which is I think from memory the first strike of Aboriginal people, Aboriginal workers, but. I recommend for those who don't know anything about it, because I sure as hell didn't going through the education system in this country. Yeah. Get on and Google it. It's just amazing. Like you've got a bunch of, shout out to the Yorta and the Bangarang who are still fighting to this day. And there's some of the staunchest, most incredible people I know who have inspired me so much as well when it comes to activism. They're still going. They're still doing this sort of stuff. But back then, a walk-off because they were being essentially starved of rations. Their children were being taken. They'd been shifted off lands and put into these forced labour stuff. And so they upped and went. And, that plus all the illnesses that they were suffering from, which had been imported in. Just the incredible thing of getting up off the station and walking off and remaining so, for, I believe it was 9 months. It's just an incredible thing that I did want to mark today.
Because I know that in the late 1930s there was like a wave of more sort of radically informed, I suppose, I'd say, like protest action that was happening. I mean, this is obviously the era of Cooper doing his thing, and what have you, and so I assume that it was informed by radicalism to a degree.
It's the people of Cooper, and it's also the people of Jack Patton. So, Cooper was a Yorta man, Jack Patton, all of that lot who were also involved in the Day of Mourning protest. Feeding into this. These were incredibly staunch and proud traditional owners, but they're also quite informed unionists. That a lot of them have been involved in sheep shearing and that sort of work,
right.
and gotten some union skills while they're at it. So up they got and off they went.
Yeah.
And I recommend everyone reads up about it. But an incredible anniversary for the Indigenous rights movement.
Yeah, we'll put a bunch of links in the show notes. That was 1939.
Yeah.
So I think you mentioned as well, like, because you didn't hear about this, earlier in your life when you should have because of the education system. But like, we've all heard of like the Eureka Rebellion,
Mm-hmm.
and we've all heard of Ballarat and the protest there, as if like that's the first time there was ever class consciousness in the country. And it's not class consciousness now. Don't worry about it. But imagine if we had this like taught alongside it, given at least equal prominence, let alone if it was given the proper sort of, historical critical treatment of like, these weren't just workers. These were, oppressed, colonized people that went, fucking no, we're walking off the job for all of this shit. Like,
this was a stand for workers' rights. It was a stand against the really horrible child removal policies. It was a self-determination stance. It was a traditional owner stance. Like, there is so much in the Gumragunja walk-off, and it proceeded because while I didn't hear about this walk-off in school through a Paul Kelly song and Kev Carmody, I did hear about the Gurindji walk-off, which happened some 30 years later. And, it's just kind of this history of activism and for the same thing over generations, because that is a couple of generations between those two movements. And Pilbara in between them, the Pilbara strike in between them, it's just, an incredible history for all of our radical online leftist podcast listeners.
Yeah. It's cool. And that's stuff we've talked about before as well, with like, you've got an unbroken history of Aboriginal protest in this country that is also informed by and informing workers' rights work of. It's not as much as people would like it to be sort of put aside into history, and it's its own little mythological thing, and don't worry about it now. It doesn't have a connection. And like, as you've explained numerous fucking times on this show, yes, it does. It has direct connections all the way back. You can trace it, and it's important to do that. I don't know. I find the event itself inspiring, and I find any sort of individual action or event like that inspiring. But there is something really invigorating to know that you come from a lineage of action like that, and letting them inform today's work. That's like, well, they didn't fucking stop then, did they? So don't stop now.
No. Descendants and relatives of Cooper were the ones who were doing the Yorta land claim in the 90s. Like, they were fighting that all the way to the high courts. Yeah.
This is some shit that I've been thinking about working on. This is like I hate that it's my wheelhouse, but like I said in that introductory set of episodes, I'm lucky and privileged to have the wanky life that I have, where I can review craft beer off my own time, and then look at larger media landscape and political movements and blah, 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 blah. But something that I've found fucking insufferable at the moment in all quarters is this incessant talking about Dutton as if he is the fucking heir apparent in this country. I'm so sick of hearing about how Dutton is doing this thing, and this thing is what Australians want, or is going to happen, or is it bad for Australians? Dutton mania has swept the nation at the moment. And I want to get into the sort of like two different aspects of it. The second one I'll get into a bit later is the media. And I want to preface that now by just sort of saying, like, obviously the media have a vested interest in having a coalition government. That's not, obviously they want to do that. So that's the biggest reason why they're doing stuff. But I think some of the blame with this shit has to come down to the ALP and the Greens and independents and whatnot. But mostly the Labor Party, mostly Albo and his messaging at the moment. Because I don't know if you two have seen much of this shit, but like, So recently, there's been Dutton has come out, I think today or yesterday, saying that he's going to slash all these bureaucratic roles. He's going to save billions of dollars by gutting all these jobs, but he's not releasing plans for what he's doing. Oh, and isn't that a scare? Because he said during The Voice, if you don't know, vote no. And tricky, isn't it, that now he's not releasing things? And so instead of not talking about this, if you're in the media or you're the Labor, because it's nothing, it's not a fucking story. I could say I'm going to do stuff with nothing behind it. It's not a fucking story. But fucking Jim Chalmers is quoted in this ABC article as saying, quote, Peter Dutton has got some very serious questions to answer this week and the week after. He should start by telling people what these cuts are and what they mean. Sorry, but you're in government, you're the fucking treasurer, and you're saying the opposition leader should be in front of cameras and microphones for a fortnight talking to you, and I am inviting him to take up time to tell you what his ideas are. I want to give him time. I want to give him space. I'm holding space for Peter Dutton in this moment.
Yeah.
I was going to say that is that MAGA playbook in that sense, though, isn't it? Because you don't. I mean, it's not an accidental part of the plan to go, here's my irrational thing. I'm not going to give you any plans. Actually, making the irrational claim and then not providing the details so that everyone else is left rushing in to try and debunk or fact check or fill in the gaps. Yeah. That is the playbook. They quickly established that you know, you still are, you're the one standing in the center of the dance floor. He's clearly, I mean, it's been patently obvious as it was, and yet, you know, MAGA 2 has now made it a dead cert. He's now he's set out running a dead ringer for the MAGA campaign, isn't he? You know, it's an absolute replica.
Yeah. This is something I want to get to when I talk about the media, for sure, because we're not talking about that properly anywhere, and it's something I want to talk about. But on the ALP and the Greens and Celeste, I would definitely like your opinion on this as someone who was party to maybe more or less like federal campaign ideas and messaging and whatnot. But I've yelled about it on this show before when I got Green's emails saying, help us keep Dutton out. Remember Peter Dutton? Let's talk about Dutton. Let's keep Dutton out. And this is free advice to the fucking ALP, and I know they won't take it. Also for the Greens and independents, which is different because you're not in fucking power. But please, for the love of fuck, talk about things you will do as opposed to things you will stop from happening, things you won't do, things you won't let come to pass. Because there is something that captures the imagination in people that gets them just on the treadmill of things are happening. When Dutton says, I'm going to cut stuff, you don't say, what about those cuts? What are you doing with those cuts? Don't stop bringing up the cuts. Talk about what you will do.
Yeah. Look, there's nothing remotely inspiring to me, I've got to say, when I hear a campaign that's totally about, we've got to keep this dude out because he's worse than what you've currently got. Like, you know, democratically speaking, there's nothing in that. There is nothing in that. There's no promises. There's no policies. There's nothing that is cooking away there. As for Jim Chalmers, what occurred to me was, well, I can pretty much guess that, you know, Dutton's not going to be cutting Border Force or the AFP. So there's two areas that he won't cut. But you know, I think that it doesn't actually, him making that statement doesn't actually really say anything but beyond, look at me being oppositional to my opposition. It's, you know, as somebody who is in government right now, but who also has a reasonable idea, I would have thought of, the sorts of dog whistles that his workmate across the chamber goes for. He should be able to predict what sort of things that Dutton is referring to in his I'm going to cut everything sort of thing, and at least be able to draw up some sort of massive scare campaign and talk about how they're going to fund more of this and how they're going to increase this sort of public spending because it's important. I'm not hearing any of that. I'm just hearing this dude's scary. we're less scary, pick the less scary one. And I'm not just hearing that with the parties. I'm actually hearing that with various sorts of community lobby groups and the union movement.
Yep. It's fucked.
It isn't enough. Like when I'm hit with policies, I want to see stuff that appeals to me as a socially progressive, community minded individual who has a bunch of things that I think are important. I want to actually see them talking about that. I don't care about that dude, because that dude retires. They get in another dude that will be another dude because it's a Liberal Party. And it'll just be rinse and repeat. We've seen it so many times.
Should be very hard to buy this image of Dutton as some MAGA-esque rebel. I mean, this man is the institution,
Oh, my God,
The coolest thing about this guy is that he was a cop when he was young, and that's not cool. He's a fucking corpse, mate.
He could do a bunch of campaign videos with, like, Knight Rider music or, my what is it, the Hawaii 5-0 or whatever? That'd be good.
Yeah. Did you know, though, He was a cop when he was younger, only because he lost a seat in an election. Like he was one of the youngest people to run for federal government for the Liberal Party. I think he was 19 when he went for pre-selection. He was super young. Didn't win the seat, and then I fucking forget his name. Someone in the Howard government was like, "You need life experience, go do something else." So he went and became a Queensland cop.
Mitch, that is more, I think it's shocking that I didn't know that. I'm no Dutton scholar. I'm not accusing you of being a Dutton scholar either. What an insult. No, I'm no Dutton scholar, but like that, what you've just told me, the fact that I don't know that until now, well, it's an indictment on his political opponents, because that, in the modern populist discourse, that's more fucking shameful than just the cop thing in and of itself. I mean, there's a browbeating right-wing, like, macho politics to be, culture war to be contrived out of the whole young cop thing that makes that a little bit of a... But if you go, you were just a fucking institution politician who then failed, and then you had to go and be a cop. Well, that's more like it.
He wasn't just a Queensland cop. He was cynically a Queensland cop. He wanted to be a politician who then went, well, I've got to be a cop for a bit first. That's the worst of both worlds. Those are the two hellish, demonic occupations. It's fucked.
Yeah.
The other thing I just wanted to mention as well, Celeste, on what you said about, like, he's the scary option, we're less scary. Not only is that not inspiring, it fucking legitimizes him.
Yeah.
Why is he scary? Because he's powerful, because he'll do things. But he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He's rehashing Howard-era policies while saying he'll do things with no evidence, and he puts glasses on and says, haha, I've changed my image. He's nothing. It legitimizes a man who is genuinely one of the most evil and also dumbest people in our fucking politics. You can tell when he tries to roll out these ideas, like the government efficiency Musk playbook thing, which we'll get to in a bit. Like, he's got nothing. And the ALP, let alone the media, are confecting something. They look at him and they go, well, there's got to be something here. He's an opposition leader. It's like, no, he was the last one left. They lost talent because of Tony Abbott and his culture war. They've got nothing. So Dutton's the last man standing. He's been there the longest, and they go, oh, scary. So the other thing I really want, and I would love for Labor to do, is to stop talking about things they'll do after the fucking election. And I'm saying this cynically. I'm not saying because it'd make our lives better, but they keep saying that, like, they'll cut student debt after the election, and they'll do housing stuff if you vote for me this election. And I do not understand this lack of, well, I do understand it, this lack of sort of wanting to do things now to get votes. Because you saw, like, Stephen Miles in Queensland tried to do it. He salvaged an election by stealing Greens policy to do 50-cent fares in Queensland.
Yes. That was very proactive, and it touched working class people's lives. Yeah.
And it showed people that you're powerful. At the moment, there's this narrative that Dutton is powerful, right? And they just keep going, well, I don't think he is. Talk to him about it. Go on, give him more airtime. As opposed to just going, I don't care what Dutton is saying. We're doing something right now. We're going to help people right now. We're busy getting things done. As opposed to, oh, if you vote for us next time, we promise we'll do stuff. You've had fucking 3 years now. You've done, no, you've lost faith. You've lost our faith. The main thing I want to mention in this, though, is the reason why they do it is because the ALP, as much as they don't like to admit it, are a fucking neoliberal party. And they would rather be in opposition than do good things for leftists. They're not a leftist party, they're a corporate party. And the reason why we're seeing them cede ground to the Liberals in this is because the only option they have, this is something Pingers has spoken about a couple episodes ago, the only thing that they could do to stop this is to actually help people right now. And to help people right now, they'd have to do progressive things, and they don't want to do progressive things because that hurts their business interests, that hurts their lobbying partners, that hurts their corporate friends. That's why we're seeing Albo look so fucking weak in this. It just shocks me that they're so dyed in the wool neoliberal at this stage that they won't even do some things cynically for political gain. They'll just roll over. And it blows my fucking mind. Like they would all just rather go, no, we'll just be in opposition for a bit. And I don't want to fight. I don't want to do stuff. Like, fuck, man. Grow a spine.
It seems pretty intuitive to me that the news and the attention cycle warrants you jumping onto new policies and getting the attention of people and taking the center of the dance floor, to repeat what I said before, now rather than waiting for the election. People will not, people will be imbibing all this Dutton discourse because he keeps coming up with new absurd things. I'm going to put Tasmania on a space station. You don't have to, you can just say something irrational. It's the mega playbook, as you said before. The other guys can then go, debunk, fact check. And then he doesn't say anything. And even though he's got corpse energy, it looks like he's got big dick energy. I mean, we all know that fucking playbook. It's very intuitive. It's very simple, but it's a matter of getting attention. So, as you said, Mitch, they would be best off. I think it's fairly intuitive to say, to come up with big sweeping gestures that working class people feel benefit them and to do them now rather than talking about it after the election. But all they do is they're like running away, being nipped at the heels by various different lobbying and interest groups. They're scared of pissing anyone off too much. And in the process, they're impressing nobody.
Yeah, they've squandered an entire term of government by not wanting to rock the boat. And so they've got nothing big to point back at and go, look how better we are than these weirdos. When no one wants the Liberal Party. The reason why the Labor got in anyways, because people were sick of Scott Morrison and the Liberals. They had an opportunity to look at the makeup of all these teals and greens and whatnot and go, oh shit, there's been a change. We could do some big things. And cynically, we could do it for our own sake and we could be in power for ages. And instead they went, we could we could kill the right-wing base of the Liberal Party and we could just be the centrist party that rules forever. And everyone's going, well, that's fucking boring and uninspiring. I hate you. So that's the government side. The media side, the other fucking part of this. And this is something that you mentioned, Tanaki, in like the MAGA playbook that's happening here.
Yeah.
When Dutton comes up with this shit, I understand why The Australian and Sky News and Sydney Morning Herald all support it because they're right-wing media. They want coalition government. They want big business supported in this country. Fine. But even seeing like ABC News has gone to the fucking dogs now, defunded it, it's fucked. But like The Guardian and places like that are still running this similar playbook that I keep seeing over and over of like when Dutton says something, he says it in isolation. Maybe it has a similar stylistic similarity to Trump, maybe, but it's mainly just Dutton. And what I really need from the fucking media is to be putting Dutton's shit, the LNP shit generally, in the context of the far-right international. It's the movement. And when you say it's the MAGA playbook, that's very close to literal, right? We've had things like the Potsdam far-right meeting in 2023. There was the Brussels National Conservatism Conference in 2024. You've got people like Nigel Farage from the UK, Viktor Orban from Hungary, the AfD in Germany, might speak about it in a little bit, Marine Le Pen from France. All of these right-wing demagogues get together at conferences. They get together with people like Steve Bannon. They get together with billionaires like Elon Musk and a bunch of those weird European, like Habsburg-esque families that have all that old wealth from paintings and stuff. And you don't ask about like which cousins married too close to the other. They're literally getting together and having these conversations, yeah? And so without putting Dutton's words into context, I think people are missing very important information, which is that you have a major party in your country that is falling in line with international far-right interests. That should be a fucking concern to people. People should be interested in that, right? Because the main example I wanted to bring up was the big one that came up was the Shadow Minister for Government Efficiency. The Dutton wants to roll out. I know. We'll get to who that minister is in a bit, but he rolled out.
Oh, we need to cringe about this. Yeah.
Shadow Minister for Government Efficiency, yeah? And then we all had a joke that there was already a Shadow Minister for Government Waste Reduction. Dutton's a fucking idiot. He is. But there was this thing of like, well, that's kind of like the Musk's Doge over in America, the Department of Government Efficiency, where they're cutting everything and firing everyone, right? And it's not like that. It fucking is that. And it's not just... It's
same thing.
And it's not just happening in America. It is happening in Hungary. They are setting it up in France. They are wanting to establish it in Germany, where Elon Musk spoke, yeah? Mm-hmm. And if that is that connected, right, I think we can safely say, in my opinion, that the LNP are at least courting Elon Musk and people like him for money, if not already getting funding, yeah? Because we have the Shadow Minister for Government Efficiency. In the same month, we also had Susan Ley coming out and saying that the first British colonizers to Australia were a lot like Elon Musk's planned colonization of Mars, yeah? And we also had Peter Dutton saying, when Labor said they were going to fix up the NBN after the election, after you vote for us, we'll spend a lot of money on the NBN. Dutton came out and said, we shouldn't worry about the NBN. We should all get on Starlink, which is Elon Musk's like satellite internet. So in the space of 3 weeks, you have the LNP openly courting Elon Musk and invoking Elon Musk in these like major ways. And that was never a story. I was like, why the fuck are we not talking about the fact that clearly the right-wing opposition party in this country is trying to get billionaire foreign assistance for the upcoming fucking election? That's the only story.
And like, take the NBN thing. NBN, boring, heard about it all before, didn't quite work out. And I'm just like, got my fucking idiot brain on here. You know what I mean? Just like a fucking waste man brain. NBN, boring, all this stuff about fibre to the node. Heard heaps about it. Used to go on a website, but versus, oh, what? Just get rid of it and go with the Tesla guy? Fuck yeah. None of the details matter. It's purely about which is the more exciting new thing to talk about. Yeah. And it's a playbook right now. It's a playbook that no one... It got set up during Trump 1, but Trump 2, MAGA 2.0 in America, is just the playbook, because Trump's a walking corpse now. He doesn't have to, it's just the playbook. But such a huge part of the success of the playbook relies upon the susceptibility of failing centre-left parties and their attendant stenographer media outlets. It's, as long as those outlets are failing, as long as you don't have a Sanders-style alternative in America, which those, centre-left party there worked very hard to crush, seeing it as an internal threat, As long as you don't have a viable, genuinely left alternative and an attendant media that's willing to talk about it, the MAGA playbook dominates the discourse. And all you got to dominate the discourse to get people to only remember you, because everyone has the attention span of a gnat now. It's very evident stuff. It's very evident. You have to be very enslaved to your own inadequacy and your own inertia to not be able to respond, as the ALP and its attendant stenographer media outlets doing, to not respond to the patently fucking obvious playbook that's working all around the world. We're in a shocking state of affairs, aren't we, for mainstream politics?
Look, I've gotten myself completely confused throughout this, because you said the Habsburg, and as somebody who knows far too much about royalty, I just started thinking about chins, and then you said the NBN, and I started thinking about that fuck up and how that played out, and how we're now being sold getting onto whatever Elon Musk is selling by the same people who stiffed us with the NBN anyway. Like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We're fucked.
But yeah, the media really has not been particularly helpful. I think that as somebody who is a commentator in the media from time to time, I wish, and we are going to get to this a little bit more with regards to another person, but I wish they would actually start when these statements are going on, rather than just hang on them and riff off them and whatever else, they'd start drilling down on them and looking at the substance of them. Like, you were talking fact checks before, but there wasn't an awful lot of that I'm actually seeing with regards to these big statements. The media are taking them, they're running with them, and particularly in the case of commercial media, it's a lucrative business for them to do so. The more hits they get on these fantastical one-line statements from Dutton, from whoever else, the more that they can drive up their revenue. So we're just being drawn into this, absolute cesspool of capitalism with the entire situation. Our media is representing that more than anything else.
One last thing I want to leave off of my ranting here is just a lot of people in my life, progressives, activists, whoever else, are talking about the inevitable LNP win coming up. And I just want to sort of remind everyone about Bill Shorten's unlosable election and how he fucked that and how that got really weird because he was as unelectable as Peter Dutton. And I don't even want to focus on maybe the ALP can pull it through. Maybe Albo can win because he's a fucking wet lettuce. He's shit. But we have a really fucking good opportunity to break the two-party system this election. And that's what I want to focus on. Yeah. Greens, Vic Socialists, Independents, whoever. Let's just humble these two born-to-rule parties and focus on that. Doesn't matter which one of those two fucking win the minority of seats doing this shit. Also, how fucking funny would a Greens Liberal minority government be? Just a term of that. Just the fucking weirdness of that. That's what I want to focus on, and that's what's giving me hope, and hopefully it'll give listeners enthusiasm and hope. Not that it's ALP versus LNP, and we need to do the bare minimum there. It's let's fuck both of them off and relegate them to the position of small parties, and we'll figure the rest out afterwards. Because the vast majority of voting people in this country clearly want some centre-left politics ruling their lives. That's how they voted last election, and it was just a fluke Labor got in. That's what we focus on. That's what gets me excited.
This is a test for Advance Australia. In my view, this is a test. This campaign, this election is going to be a test for Advance Australia's campaigning abilities, which I'm interested to watch. I mean, they certainly feel that they had this is from CPAC last year and watching some of their other stuff, they feel they had a central role in the messaging that defeated the Voice referendum. I think it was doomed from the minute that Dutton got, behind, opposing it, given that most referendums seem to be doomed as soon as there's, a lack of accord between two parties. That's always been the case, apparently. But nonetheless, they feel that. And I think this would be their opportunity to prove whether they're on or not, because they are single-mindedly about eroding the Greens' vote this election. They have they have shirts that they'll be all handing out to everyone, and that they're all standing outside booths with already saying, "Oh, not the Greens, not this time," or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Something like that. Boomers in green shows. None of you look like you've ever voted Greens. This is very inauthentic.
They do have boomer energy, sort of like boomer right-wing get-up energy, but they do seem to immediately influence every politician that I then see getting on Sky After Dark. They all immediately start saying the same thing. I mean, are they sending them talking points? I don't know. It's
the playbook we keep mentioning. It's the playbook. It's the playbook. They're working off the same international playbook. We saw that
playbook.
We saw that with our friend of the pod we'll be talking about in just a second. During The Voice, they talked about the same thing. Cutting government bureaucracy, cutting energy, all that sort of shit. The gas-led future. Rishi Sunak talking about stop the boats, the 3 words like it. They are working together in a way that we haven't seen the left do it since the Comintern. We need
I want to work together with people, but Labor are pretty shit, They're pretty fucking shit.
No, this is the thing.
I'm not asking for much. I would have liked it if you had not been a fucking, if you had a not basically endorsed or fucking, flip-flopped on the genocide for an entire year plus.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
think
nice.
that was such an unreasonable ask.
Fucking
Yeah.
It took him so long to get against it in the most milquetoast of forms, It
Yeah.
took him so long to get into the UN and start voting against it. Unbearable, What to me, I don't know, in my far left brain, it's one of the most, it's the biggest tarnishing stain on Albanese's legacy, the absolute inertia on that. I've learned so much from his party about anti-Semitism on campus and so little about what they don't, so little about whether they had a long-standing concern about all the dead Arab children that all of us saw daily in our fucking phones, That's their big legacy for me, So it's very hard to get behind them. I don't want to be this sort of internecine squabbling and scrapping, but they don't feel like they're on my side.
They're not.
Yeah.
They're not on my fucking side.
Look, the only thing, because I would love it, as you said, let's make the entire thing a little bit more collaborative. If they're all having to negotiate with each other to get policies off the ground, that would be fantastic. I was trying to explain to a friend a while back about, these systems that exist across the world where they're essentially coalitions of various parties, and in order to get stuff off the ground, they need to go into negotiation and do some conversation, which to me sounds almost like a utopia compared to what we've got now. But if voters can't do that, can they at least get their feet on the pedals and make any of these seats a lot more marginal than what they are? Because the minute that these seats become more marginal, then the people sitting in them feel more of a responsibility to go to their general public, their constituency, and figure out what it is that we want. Because right now, party room dynamics are what are dictating everything, and one party room against the other is what we're seeing play out.
We've hinted at the special profile we want to be writing on someone this app. But Celeste, you wanted to have a chat about the new Shadow Minister for Government Efficiency, Jacinta Price.
Look, and if I remember correctly, we got a viewer question a couple of weeks ago going, where did we get our news? And I answered that with, I get a lot of mine off social, and I'm not religious, but God bless Indigenous social media, because some of the stuff that I've seen with regards to this announcement has been incredible. It's been incredible. Like, how on earth, for example, can we have a minister for government efficiency who has managed to claim $200,000 every quarter on top of the wages that she earns as a senator? So maybe I can get a couple of these little slides and send them. But we're talking about Jacinta Price, and I've got to say, I am talking about this off the back of laughing with regards to friend of the podcast, Warren Mundine, and how he didn't get pre-selection the other day, and it must be because Liberal were busy pre-selecting a woman to look better in a teal shed fight. Gee.
Did you also see Warren Mundine's energy companies collapsed?
Yeah, I did.
Aura Energy, yeah.
I did. One of my cousins sent me that with laughing emojis the minute it dropped. He was very keen for me to know that this was a thing that had happened, and was I happy. But yes, it's sort of, and maybe I pair those two in my head because you do see him playing double barrel an awful lot around the Liberal Party. But when it comes to Jacinta, she's actually one that is elected. She's sitting in there at the moment. And because she's a territory senator, she's on the 3-year terms rather than the 6-year. So she's up again. And from what I've noticed, we were talking about Dutton and his great big sweeping statements. given that she's up again, part of her playbook has also been these very big, sweeping, empty statements, MAGA-like statements, that are designed to get people roaring and cheering it on. But yeah, the one in particular that jumped out at me this past week was some sort of promise that she was going to cut spending, or it was going to become more efficient with regards to the money spent on welcome to country ceremonies.
Oh, yeah.
And for starters, I don't know how much the federal government's spending on welcome to countries, but I do know that they're not generally something that is just, something that the government of the day offers by themselves. They're actually, unis do them, community orgs do them.
I mean, they're not like the fucking Olympics, are they? They're just like little things.
Childcare groups do them. I've seen racists whinge about the fact that Qantas does them, which is wrong, because Qantas doesn't do a welcome to country. They give an acknowledgement of country when they land, and those are two different things. Those are two different things, but I've got thoughts about a massive corporate giant doing them as a part of performance, but that's a different. I'm getting sidetracked again. I'm right back to the Habsburg chins again, But yeah, look, there's no substance in a statement like that. There is nothing efficient in that, and there is no proof that somebody who can spend, according to what I've seen, that amount of money on various projects, whether it's flights or events or whatever else, there is no proof that there is going to be anything more efficient with regards to welcome to countries. This is race baiting. It is actually classic race baiting, and Jacinta is a master at it. Like, her entire political career has been a series of these comments that are designed. A lot of people have asked me, well, how does she interact with the Indigenous community? I'm not willing to make a sweeping statement on that. I know that there's some Indigenous community people who do support her, but I know there's a lot more that don't, and there's a lot more that find her deeply problematic and view her as somebody who is appealing to the far right, the alt-right, neo-Nazis. She was doing photo ops with Pauline Hanson before she was voted in. So, One Nation segments, like the kind of person who will court the far right in order to get herself elected. So she's not actually appealing to Indigenous Australia. We're not her support base. Her support base are white racists who don't think an awful lot about stuff, because for them, saying that welcome to countries are going to be cut's a massive winning policy statement, even though there's nothing in it.
Have you always seen her politics as being, increasingly in the way that she's sort of like attendant to the ever-shifting needs of like this right-wing culture war base? Is that primarily driven by career self-interest? I often saw her as being like just making sure there was money in the bank. But then again, I know she comes from, she's the daughter of Bess Price, who was always, Bess Price has the ignoble title of being possibly one of the only leaders to like turn water off from an Indigenous community's water supply. That was back in the 2010s,
Yeah. That was Whitegate community, and that was that was a community actually that my grandmother lived out at with her kids when my grandfather, my Indigenous war veteran grandfather, was over serving in World War II. So Bess Price turned off the water to Whitegate community. Not that it had a decent supply in the first place.
And so that's her mum. So this is a really ideological approach to like being punitive and attended. They're both Bess and Jacinta very ideologically pro-intervention. Those have been the politics of the family. But yeah, I was wondering, Is this ideology or self-interest or like a bit of both in your view?
So we have seen some historical mirrors with Bess, because Bess did much the same thing. She did appeal to the right wing, but I think I'm trying to remember, rapper Dan the Underdog pointed out that Bess was actually originally a Labor person, which was interesting, right. Because I'm seeing a parallel not just there, but also with Warren Mundine, where, you know, people have tried to maneuver in one party, jumped and gone to another, and then built a career through being outrageously conservative, verging on far right, you know, courting in order to get over. But there's just a little bit of difference with Bess and Jacinta, and I think it's just the generational thing. I mean, Bess did grow up on a community, was a mother at 13. You know, she'd had a series of life experiences which haven't necessarily been Jacinta's experiences, but Jacinta is also slightly more slightly more better. My goodness. She's slightly better. She's slightly better at being able to appeal to a section of the right wing that her mother didn't necessarily have a hold on. She's better at appealing to them in order to build power. So I'd say, absolutely, it's careerist. You know, perhaps there's a little bit of them that does believe that their stances are for the good of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, but I doubt it. Like if it is, it's minute. I think that it's got a lot more to do with building a political career than it does anything else.
Or even like a dynasty. Like the ideology is self-interest, and it's a very myopic, closed off, like family first, family name, old school way of doing it. It's interesting too. You say, Celeste, that she like is much better at reaching a type of the right winger that like her mother couldn't. I also wonder how much of it is Jacinta Price is able to grab a type of right wing, or at least use an appealing type of right wing rhetoric that didn't exist even 10, let alone 30 years ago. Like, I think that's a big thing as well, as being able to grab this new mode that we're in, again, the internationalist right-wing mode, and disseminate it into the hollow sound bites, or like, you know, again, we're going to get rid of like the welcome to countries. It's probably a website that one IT guy in Canberra looks after, and it's just got links to other sources. That's probably the cut. And so they can go, we're going to cut it, and that's going to cut spending. How much? 20,000 a year. It's going to be a cut though. And but yeah, so that's, I do wonder like how much of it is, it's that new right wing, that new hollow politics that's purely rhetoric.
Actually, I thought of a very key difference, which I will just throw on the table here though. I mean, Bess was Northern Territory government, Jacinta's federal. And the key difference there is that Bess was voted in on a wave of community support, as well as white right-wing support. She was also voted out very, very strongly off the back of what they call the Bush vote in the Northern Territory. Like the turn against her was over 30%. So there was some sort of community buy-in that brought her in, but also then took her away so decisively. Jacinta doesn't have that. Like, it's not the vote, you know, the voter makeup in order to win a Senate seat in the Northern Territory is so different to what a Northern Territory electorate for the territory government is. It's incomparable. So her pool has very little to do with the Indigenous electorate at all.
I was going to ask, though, to the point of, like, why she's been appointed into this Doge-like position. See, like, okay, so I get it, right? Elon Musk, I mean, I see him as a parasite, and he fails upward because of the shareholder capitalism and venture capital and big tech, and, you know, these evils, these parasitic evils that are ruining the fucking world. He's He's the ultimate upwards failure. And that's how I see him. And that's the right way to see him. But I get that people go, oh, he's the magic electricity guy. And he's the smartest genius in the world. I know that. I know the way idiots have been trained to say, I know. I get it. You know, we're like the peasants in King's Landing. You know what I mean? We're wondering about which Lannister is the most handsome. That's why we like Elon Musk. We're like, oh, he's got to be smart, otherwise we're living in hell world. Well, guess what we are.
Yeah.
But you know, I get that. So anyway, big smart guy, genius inventor. So you know, and runs businesses. Oh, he's going to shave the government down. Okay. Oh, great. I get that. I get that magic thinking. I don't see the magic thinking rationale behind why Jacinta Price is the person to do that here. I just think they've gone, oh, she makes some lefties mad.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the same energy, though. It's very confusing energy.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I just think it's because Dutton's a fucking idiot, right? So I think he's got this thing of like, well, we need to cut government inefficiency, so I'll do that. And who can I get to do it? Oh, well, who's someone who was a shining star of the Liberal Party according to the only media I consume? Oh, Jacinta Price. Okay, and that's the extent of the thought. It was just who's a face, who hasn't had a run in the media for a little bit. Jacinta Price. All right, and this is the thing. What is something that she can't wreck for the big businesses at the moment? Do you know what I mean? Because that wasn't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some things that she did. I don't even think it was to do with The Voice, but straight after The Voice. This is one of those things that's really good for a podcast where I can't remember what I'm talking about. But surely there was this fucking instance where like she made some mentions to things, or she put forward some proposals, and a whole bunch of other Liberal Party politicians were like, "Oh, well, I'm not actually sure about that. Well, I'm not sure we're going to do that," and she's like receded into the background. If anyone remembers that's listening, shoot us an email, alpdotgov@proton.me. I swear to fucking God, she was front and center for The Voice, and then as soon as The Voice was over, she was like, we're going to nationalize the fossil fuel industry. It wasn't that, but it was something like that everyone just went, oh, fuck, shut the fuck up, don't ruin the money. And so she was put to
I get it. Yeah. So you're saying she's been put into a position where she can't piss people off too much. It's essentially an honorary position.
Yes,
like
exactly.
with Elon in America. Yeah, it doesn't really. Yeah.
I reckon that's my take. That's why I reckon she's in this position. But you're right. There's no juice to it. There's no energy. Like,
it'll be a good test. This election is going to be an ultimate test of how powerful the playbook in isolation is, because I don't think they're doing the playbook with any energy. I think they're all a bunch of like, they've got loser energy. You know what I mean?
They do. Yeah. Our politicians have such major loser energy in this country.
Yeah. Look, and you know, it is a big part. I think that it is about building a profile too with somebody who is going to be up for election. So you know, this gives an opportunity to say a thing that has no substance, get some media, get some more votes that cooking over when somebody's looking for re-election. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to another episode of the Radical Online Leftist Pipeline podcast. We're not going to do questions this week because Pingers isn't here. I just want to call out, we did get some emails about where we get our news from, which is really nice. Tom emailed in, says, the Conversation website is really good. I agree. It's from academics. Yeah. And there's a podcast called This Machine Kills from Jathan Sadowski. I also like that a lot. And Rebel emailed in and says, gets a lot of news from The Shot, which is pretty good. And also a podcast, Colonial Outcasts, which I also think is pretty good. If you want to send us an email, if you want to give us ask a question, if you've got some clarifications, if you've got some queries, whatever, if you just want to say hi, if you just want to go, hey, I gave you a review on my favorite podcast app, but boy, I'd like to just say hi, shoot us an email, alpdotgov@proton.me. And because it's such a special treat to have Taniki here to say goodbye, Tom, you've got the last words.
Goodbye.
Oh, no. Oh, well, we can't do that.
Goodbye. I'm going to go right into the head, right into the mic, really close like this.
Everyone should know that we do usually have Tom here, but I cut him because he does this.
because he doesn't shit. Fucking weirdo. This is not our professional end of a podcast. Like we're trying to sleep with our listeners. Bye, sweetie.
Oh, Christ. This is how we get the parasocial.
As we began, so we ended.
I'll catch you all next week.
See you next week, legends. Celeste, can I just ask you a quick question? What you're drinking off the side, is it a fun beer?
Yes.
What is it? No, just what is it? I'm not. What's
Oh,
the beer?
no, it's just a basic beer. Sorry, it's a draft.
Cool. Listeners, we're oh no, hang on. I think we established in December we're all insufferable craft beer wankers. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Are we gonna? Is it people gonna send us if we get really popular at craft beer? People gonna send us beers, not for as a sponsorship. Fuck off. But no, so that we can rate them and we'll be brutal about them if we don't like them. Is that?
I was going to cut this, but you know what? Maybe if there's radical leftist craft brewers that want to link up for a collab, let us know.
I want us to be sent things. That's what I want. No, you're not sponsoring us, but we do want to have the beer. Just putting that out there. Putting it out there into the cosmos.
Manifesting.